Hello, 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 and welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, Happy, Safe introductory channel video and Helen Putnam Regional Park. So what's the channel about? Basically, over the last several years, I've watched hundreds, probably over 1,000 hours of documentaries, YouTube footage, videos, channels, from amazing people in the fields of nutrition, supplements, heart surgeons, brain surgeons, alternative medicine people, longevity experts, longevity being how to live longer and healthy at the same time. No point living to a ripe old age, but spending the last 10, 15 years of your life infirmed or in bed. I've been able to help friends and family through the knowledge that I've learned from these amazing people by recommending supplements, sleeping changes to help for better sleep, diet changes, for better sleep and health, generally helping people and friends and people I love and care about to get better and to feel better and have more energy generally, both mentally and physically. So what I'm going to impart as we walk around some of amazing Northern California trails is the knowledge that I've learned, in the hopes that you will benefit from this too. I don't expect you to take 100% on board what I tell you, but it will hopefully pique your interest enough to want to check out some of the other people that I will list in the description that I now follow and trust for this kind of advice. I'm also going to cover the subject of finance, primarily shares that I can recommend, and explaining cryptocurrency and why you might be interested in that. Again, hundreds of hours of research. I currently own those investments myself, and my background is 27 years in financial services, many of those years in the City of London. So I'll be passing on that expertise to you too. But of course, in the meantime, for every one of these walks, you'll be getting to see some of the amazing trails in Northern California, which might just encourage you to come and try them for yourself, or if nothing else, to get out and walk in nature, because there's plenty of benefits in just doing that. So today, the subject I'm going to cover is time-restricted eating or fasting. It's totally free. It costs you nothing. There are huge benefits, lots of studies, etc., proving the benefits of this. And when we get into the walk, I'll explain that to you in a bit more detail. So I guess to sum up, the reason that you might want to watch these walk and talks is, firstly, you get to see some amazing trails before you maybe visit yourself. But secondly, you're going to get to hear things that I've learned that definitely affect health, as evidenced by friends and family that have, and myself, my wife, who take these supplements and do these various changes to lifestyle, which you can implement for yourself. And what you'll probably find, as we have, is that as you combine these different best practices, for want of a better description, they all work symbiotically, they work together to benefit you even greater. Okay, so we're going to start with the Fillory Trail. All the trails are beautiful. This takes us to the top of Helen Putnam Park, where it becomes wide open spaces. So hopefully you enjoy this first trail. Follow me. We're heading off down there. So this trail is uphill. It's tree lined, and the path's pretty windy, which is pretty in its own way. Most of the year it's dry like this. There are the occasional muddy parts that you have to navigate around if you're wearing hiking boots like I am. My wife is. Just walk through it, but you can see it's well maintained. There is poison oak in the park, so just be careful of that. Don't wander off the paths. It does have some pretty amazing, beautiful trees and flowers and what have you to enjoy along the walk. Okay, so let's talk about intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating. And normally when you mention the word fasting, people's eyes roll back in their heads. They go, hey, you know, I don't want to starve myself. I like my food. and I get that totally, but that's actually not what it's about at all. So all it really means is that you, in effect, cut out a meal. The easiest one to cut out is breakfast, and basically try to eat by 5 or 6 p.m. the night before, and don't eat anything after your evening meal. I know that's not easy, but if you want to try this and get the health benefits, that's what you have to do. And then very simply, whilst you are enjoying the TV after your evening meal and whilst you're sleeping, until your next meal, you're clearly not consuming any calories. And that includes things like milk. You mustn't have tea or coffee with milk in it. There must be 0 amount of calories coming in. Very important. So it's pretty easy to get to 16 hours, which is the recommended minimum amount of time to enter something called autophagy. I'll come on to that in a second. Because between, say, 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock when you go to bed, and that actually ties in with circadian rhythms, and that's another video, you've already established 3 or 4 hours. If you go to bed at 9 o'clock and you wake up at 7 o'clock the next morning, there's 10 more hours. And if you don't have breakfast until, say, 10:30, 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. is the time I attempt to have my first meal of the day, now you're easily past that magic 16 hours. So why 16 hours? Well, that actually means your body turns on something called autophagy. And autophagy, if you break down the meaning of the word, it means self-eat. And in simple terms, so there will be a video that explains it in more detail with a link to it in the description. It means your body says to itself, oh, okay, what's going on? I'm not getting any food in, but I still need to power my body. I still need to power my immune system, and I still need to move about. So what am I going to do instead? I'm going to look for cells in my body that I can consume, self-eat, to produce that energy, because all cells, if you think about it, are protein, and therefore it's a source of energy. Now the cool thing about that is the body will go round and gobble up things like early stage cancer cells. It will go round and eat things like senescent cells. Senescent cells are actually pretty bad. They cause inflammation in the body. And what a senescent cell is the body, when the cell is getting old, to prevent it from turning into something like a cancer, it will tell the cell to kind of go to sleep. Don't do anything. Don't have any function in the body, but don't die. So those cells are merrily floating around your body, and intermittent fasting and autophagy, when it's turned on, hoover those up. Now, why is that important? It's important because those senescent cells cause inflammation in the body. And if they come into contact, physical contact with other cells, they turn those into senescent cells. Now, when you're younger, your body's immune system is very good at hoovering those up, regardless of whether you intermittent fast or not. But obviously, intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating, just improves your body's ability to do it. But as you get older, we get pretty bad at doing that. Our bodies lose the ability, just from energy levels and all kinds of biological reasons, which is where the autophagy and the intermittent fasting helps to stimulate it. So in effect, using intermittent fasting, time restrictive eating and autophagy, you're hoovering out all the things in your body that really shouldn't be there and that are causing, as I say, mainly inflammation. And we know that inflammation is the cause of pretty much every major disease in the body. Now, 16-8 is the recommendation, which is 16 hours of non-eating and 8 hours of consuming food or drinks with calories in them, is the starting point. Most people actually achieve autophagy somewhere between 14 and 16 hours. But to be safe, you want to be at 16 hours. Obviously, the longer you go between the last meal in the evening and the first meal of the day the next day, the better. The longer the autophagy goes, the more of that cleaning up of the body's dead and unwanted cells occurs. So how do you get into intermittent fasting or time restricted feeding? For my wife and I, the way we did it is we picked in the first week just one day where we were going to cut out breakfast, and then the second week chose 2 days. From memory it was Monday and Thursday, don't ask me why. And then we went to 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then it was an easy jump from there, we found, to go to 7 days. And now we, in effect, that's our lifestyle. We don't have to think about it. We don't miss breakfast at all, which is something that anyone who's tried this based on their own research or my recommendation has confirmed, that after a short period of time you don't miss that food whatsoever. But you very shortly, within a 2-week window roughly, start to feel more energetic, more alert. You start to sleep better, and generally you can't put your finger on it, but you know something is working. Some intermittent fasting is better than none at all. So you might decide that you don't go past Monday to Friday, take the weekends off, or you stick at 3 days a week. But the point is, every day that you do the intermittent fasting, you are turning your body's autophagy systems on, and you are helping yourself enormously in terms of general health and well-being. Okay, we've got a steeper part of the park here, so it definitely will get you out of breath. I might even sound out of breath. And then the other advantage, of course, of cutting out a meal is weight loss. I personally lost 57 pounds in the space of 2 months by simply engaging autophagy and intermittent fasting. I did obviously exercise during that period, including getting out and doing these amazing walks almost daily, in fact pretty much daily. And of course, when you have your 8-hour eating window, that isn't your excuse to eat everything you can possibly think of or want under the sun. If you're looking for a weight loss, at least, the autophagy will happen regardless of what you eat in that 8-hour window, or hopefully 7-hour window or 6-hour window. But if you can also eat healthily during that period, you know, eating things like fruits, nuts, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, things that have high nutritional value and will still fill you up. I'm not saying for a minute you have to, but it will obviously add further benefits. This, by the way, is one of my favourite parts of this particular trail. It's beautiful. The trees kind of lap over each other in like a natural arch type setting. You've got the light streaming through, the path winds and twists. It's quite magical if you get to come here yourself. It's almost like something straight out of Lord of the Rings or something, out of a movie set. Truly, truly beautiful. And of course, the other benefit, while we're talking of health, of walking in places like this, is that trees naturally give out oxygen, which means the quality of the air you're breathing when you walk through places like this is much better. They also filter out carbon dioxide, and other impurities. And the leaves, the reason they're green is they're reflecting light, and one of those lights they reflect is infrared, and infrared is incredibly important for the body and for things like your mitochondria, which are the powerhouse in every cell in your body, and that again will be another video. Okay, we're coming to the top of this path. It's quite nice to have the contrast, right? You come out of the trees and it's shaded and cool, especially in the summer days, and now you're out into wide open areas with blue skies and sunshine, and the paths are incredibly well maintained. And the nice thing about most of them is that they're actually wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side and have a conversation, which of course is also good from a health point of view. Being social, chatting, those kind of things has been proven to be good for your health. Actually, returning briefly to autophagy and time restricted diets, the Utah South West Centre for Medicine. The neuroscientists there actually carried out experiments on mice, and the reason they can do mice is because they only live like 3 to 5 years. You couldn't really do this on humans, and it's important to say that animal studies don't always translate to humans. But the cool thing was they found in a proper trial, and I put a link to it in the notes, that the mice that were on the time restricted diet, they lived 35% longer than the mice that weren't on the time restricted diet. We're now coming up on the stairs. They call it the panorama steps, and they actually take you down to, if you can see in the distance, the car park on the other side of the park, and to the toilet facilities. Here's a pretty cool view of some of the paths that go off into different directions. Again, you can see it's very up and down, so you do have to have a level of fitness to walk this particular path. But you'll also see dotted about at regular intervals some benches that they've obviously done a lot of thinking about, and they put them in places where you can just sit and take in the beauty of the place. So even if you're not the fittest, you can still do this park, but I just recommend you take advantage of the benches when you see them, get your breath back, and start again when you feel up to it. Now we're going to basically go up the, hold a second, I guess it's the Savannah Trail. This is one that takes you to the top of the hill somewhere else. This one's quite steep, but again very pretty and very windy, as you'll see as we walk along it. So the health section of this video, if you haven't worked out, has concluded. So if you tuned in for that and you're not interested in the walk, you can stop at this point. You won't be missing anything. Coming up is one of those benches I mentioned, where you get to sit down and take in a beautiful view. And here comes probably my favourite bench in the entire park. This one is in memory of someone, which is sweet. And if you sit down on this bench, that's what you get to see. Amazing. And just as a side story, not that long ago I was sitting here, and this close to me, where that grass is right now and it's all grown back, a vole or a mole came up out of the ground. First of all, you saw the grass just twitching, and you thought, what's going on? Well, how's that grass moving on its own? Because I'd never seen this happen before. And slowly but surely, it started to be pulled down into the ground, and I thought, wow. And then this little head popped up. It was just the most amazing thing to see, whilst looking at a pretty amazing view. Always amazes me how these trees obviously start growing out of the ground. It doesn't stop them, they just grow over at an angle instead of straight up, but it does make for some amazing things to look at whilst you're walking. Beautiful. Okay, we're still on the Savannah Trail, but now we're going to go down this path, which takes you down to a natural pond. So I'll show you that in a second. the pond, the lake that we're heading to, and more amazing vistas on the way to it. Here we are down at the pond. You can see there's a trail that goes around it if you want to walk around it. I'm probably going to conclude the video here. There are about another 3 or 4 trails in the park, very similar to the ones I've shown you, either beautiful, windy, under trees, or open air. But either way, I can highly recommend Helen Putnam Regional Park to you. A little bit of information that you might find interesting. It was named after Helen Putnam, who was the mayor of Petaluma and was very influential, brought a lot of wealth and prosperity in these kind of health-driven initiatives to Petaluma. And then when she passed away, they decided to name the park after her.